Welcome back to another episode of Monday at Tsene with Pretoria Psychologists. For today's topic, we'll be talking about the protective role of resilience on our mental health. I'd like to start by saying that we all face challenges in life. We all struggle with adversity or trauma, and it affects us all very individually. It often results in a flood of really strong emotions, racing thoughts, constant thoughts, and then a level of uncertainty. Psychologists define resilience as your ability to adjust well in the face of trauma, adversity, or even life stresses. Life stresses can be many things. Relationship problems, difficult parental relationships, financial struggles, health problems that are unexpected, academic pressures, losing a loved one. We all face trauma, and it all affects our mental health. Resilience is more than bouncing back. Resilience has to do with profound personal growth should we embark on the process correctly. Despite the fact that we all go through difficult times, they do not need to define our lives. We can learn and grow from them. It's important to remain empowered and to be cognizant of the journey ahead. Coping with stress positively is really important. It often allows for us to display our resilience. Research has shown that if you have a high level of resilience, you show lower levels of depression and anxiety and greater levels of life satisfaction. There are many ways in which we can start to cultivate or even build our resilience. And I say build because resilience is a skill. It is not something innate. We are able to develop it. We are able to carve it out to ensure that it is beneficial for us in our lives. The first one is to foster wellness, to take care of our bodies. And why I say this is because stress, as much as it is physical, it is also emotional. And if we do not practice positive lifestyle choices, such as getting the right amount of sleep, eating a balanced diet, exercising occasionally, we do not ensure or we do not invest in our body. Fostering wellness means that we build our body to ensure that we are able to physically deal with the stress that comes. The second tip would be to avoid negative outlets. Often when we go through a very difficult time or circumstance, we turn to alcohol, drugs, and sometimes even avoid it. What this actually means is that you're not dealing with the core element of tragedy, and it will always still have an impact on your mental health. It's like getting a really bad wound on your hand and putting a plaster on it instead. What this does is basically a quick fix. You can't see it, therefore out of sight, out of mind. But we're not dealing with the underlying causes underneath the wound, such as possibly needing stitches or antibiotics. This is what negative outlets does to our mental health. It makes us put plasters or band-aids on areas that actually need to be addressed in a healthy way. Another suggestion is to embrace our healthy thoughts. Now, what do I mean by this? Often, when we go through a difficult time, we tend to catastrophize, which basically means we think of the worst possible scenario. If you fail a module at school, you then start to contemplate, will I graduate on time? Will I actually become an architect, a doctor, or a psychologist? But in actual fact, those thoughts are irrational because even though they are a possibility, the possibility is small. And therefore, it becomes really important for us to embrace healthy thoughts. And how we do this is to ensure that we have a healthy yet realistic thinking style. And this can obviously be assisted by a mental health practitioner or even yourself, just practicing self-awareness and how we talk to ourselves. Another option would be to accept change. Change is one of the most consistent things in this thing we call life. If you are open to change, you are then open to being adaptable and resilient and bouncing back. This is really important. Change happens in every spectrum, whether it be through adverse impacts, through trauma, but learning to adjust to that is what we would need to do. And therefore, it becomes important that our mind is open to change. Change is constant. It is often one of the only constant things that we have, is that things are dynamic and things are always changing. Lastly, to lean on your network. Now, this is really important because when we go through trauma, when we go through really hard things, we tend to isolate. We tend to withdraw from our friends, our families, and our support networks. What we should be doing is investing in relationships, building relationships that or with people that can show us empathy and validate our emotions. Because what that does is it allows us to be vulnerable and supported in a time that we need to be supported. They may actually be resources with regards to families, friends who help us in terms of solution generation, in terms of what our problem may be. Therefore, for example, you could join a youth group at church, you could join an organization. What this does is it not only reignites hope, but it gives you a support system. My last tip is that if you are really struggling with adverse effects and your mental health and you'd like to start building your resilience, is to seek help. Now, what's really important is that some people may use the tips that I've just outlined and feel as though they're capable of building resilience. Other people may struggle and may need assistance, may get stuck in their process of building resilience. This is important, and this is the time that you seek help from a mental health practitioner. It's important to note that people react to different interaction styles. When you look for somebody to counsel you, to be in a therapeutic relationship with you, it is really important that you feel at ease, that you are able to trust the individual, because working on yourself, building resilience is often a very vulnerable experience, and you want to do so when you are comfortable. What I'd like to say is that when we build our resilience, that is when we are truly able to experience the beautiful spectrum of life. We take the good with the bad, we adapt, we learn, and we empower. Join us next week for another episode of Monday with Tsene with Pretoria Psychologists.